Just a Jewel with our host, Arthur Malik.
Welcome to Just a Jewel. I'm your host, Arthur Malik. Today we have an intriguing guest, one of the top 25 greatest basketball street players in New York, actually in the world. His name is Anthony, Halfman, Halfamazing, Heyward. Halfman, Halfamazing. It's definitely a pleasure to have you on my show. I've been waiting to get you on this show.
How you doing, man?
I need you to tell my viewers a little bit about yourself.
Well, like you said, my name is Anthony Heyward Jr. Grew up in Brooklyn, Bed-Stuy specifically. Originally, I wanted to be a baseball player, but so I played Little League for a few years, but then I kind of grew out of the uniforms. So I want to say discovered, but a friend of mine saw me walking by a park one day, and at that time I was maybe 6'2" or something like that, around 6'2". He asked me if I liked basketball. I said, yeah, but I couldn't play, but I was athletic. So got on the court. That's how I fell in love with the game. From there, I went to the park every day, played as much as I could, played a little bit in high school. I played 2 years in high school in telecommunications in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn. From there, I played a lot of tournaments in the New York City area, played in Rucker, played in Lafayette Gardens, in Bed-Stuy, Marcy tournaments. This is when tournaments were everywhere. Right. When every neighborhood you went to, there were nothing but nice ball players. I played everywhere. And in Lafayette Gardens, I happened to get checked out by a gentleman who later on became my mentor named Les Pilgrim. He asked me if I was interested in going to school. At the time, I wasn't, but he told me he could help me become a better ball player and possibly go pro. That interests me. I ended up going to Pratt Institute for 2 years. He worked with me for 2 years, trained me, put me through the grind like most basketball players that want to get better would. And him being a great coach that he was, after 2 years, I ended up leaving Pratt and I got my first job overseas in Finland. And from there, I played professionally for about 5 years overseas in Finland, Uruguay for 2 years where I won a championship down there, Dominican Republic for a couple of stints. Came back home after that, played semi-pro in the USBL, EBA, ABA, any mid-pro circuit you can name, I played in it. And while I was playing up at Rucker, one of my teammates, another great street ball legend, Main Event, came to me with a proposition from AND1 about helping them promote their brand while going on tour playing basketball. And we get paid for it. So I said, why not? We signed our first contract with the legendary Lord Finesse sitting at the table with us. Wasn't for a lot, it was 4 games, signed for about $5,000 in 1999. And from there, it just took off. I was fortunate to play with AND1 for about 8 years, 9 mixtapes. We had a TV show on ESPN called STREETBALL, which won a few Emmys. And to this day, I'm still playing. Right now, I'm starting to get a training program off the ground, realhalfman.com. That's my website. Also, OG Halfman 10 on Twitter and OG Halfman _Halfamazing on Instagram. And what can I say? 32 years later, since the age of 14, here I am, still playing basketball at the age of 46.
They often say that street ballers' ultimate goal is to make NBA. So did it discourage you, or what prevented you from making the NBA?
I would say myself prevented me, because I had opportunity. Once again, going back to Les Pilgrim, he had a Knicks scout lined up to come check me out play in the Dominican Republic. But due to some weather circumstances down there, we ended up missing each other. But the one thing Les Pilgrim always told me was, as good as a basketball player that I was, I needed to put on weight. And I was allergic to the weight room. Did not want to work out because I felt it would affect my speed, my jumping ability, things of that nature. So sparingly I went to the weight room, but not as much as I should have. And for me, I believe that was maybe the one thing that stopped me from getting into the NBA was my strength.
So do you think that you were good enough?
Definitely. I definitely, maybe not good enough to be a starter, but coming off of somebody's bench, I know I definitely would have been effective.
Okay, I've been hearing this name Halfman, Halfamazing for years. You know, I've watched you. I understand the A1. I watched the AND1 tournament. How did you get this name Halfman, Halfamazing?
I got it up at Rucker around playing in the EBC, maybe around 92, 93. The mic combination of Al Cash and Duke Tango, who were the mic commentators for Rucker at the time, they were commentating the game. And when I first came up there, nobody knew who I was. You know, my nickname was Biz because that's what my grandmother named me as a baby, so I always grew up with that nickname. But coming into Harlem, nobody knew who I was. For a little while, every time I scored, my name was, "Who's that guy again?" That was my name for a little while. So, but they saw that I could play. So one particular play, I don't know if it was the first game or the second game, me playing up there, we were on a break, and I got a pass, and a guy about 6'9", he tried to take a charge, and I jumped over him and dunked it. Crowd went bananas, and they were like, "Biz for two," and they were like, "No, you can't call him Biz anymore," and they tried to figure out a name, and I don't know how they came up with it, but I'm thankful that they did. And, Halfman, Halfamazing was born that day, and ever since then, I've just been trying to uphold the name.
Now, I'm complex now because I know there's an NBA player by the name of Vince Carter who has the same name, Halfman, Halfamazing.
But correction.
Oh, but I've read your card and it said the real Halfman, Halfamazing.
Right.
So how do we differentiate between the two?
Because there are people out there who claim to be basketball aficionados who recognize him as Halfman, Halfamazing, when in fact I was Halfman, Halfamazing when he was still in high school. I'm 46, Vince Carter's 40. I have 6 years on him. So when I first got the name in 92, he was either in high school or on his way to North Carolina. And in I believe it was the 2000 slam dunk contest, one of the commentators by the name of Kenny Smith, after, Vince did one of his crazy dunks, Kenny Smith, who, by the way, came up to Rucker Park. And the day he came to Rucker Park, I was having an incredible game, and all you heard was my name pretty much that day. Kenny Smith was there that day. He heard that name, took it back to the NBA, and once Vince Carter did one particular dunk, he just screamed out Halfman, Halfamazing. And I happened to be watching that slam dunk contest at the time. As soon as he said that, my phone just started ringing.
So Kenny Smith don't give you any credit for that, or do he negate the fact that he did that, or do he admit that he stole it from Rucker Park, from the legend Halfman, Halfamazing, which is you?
It's funny that you say that, because up until earlier this season, maybe November, I was watching an NBA game, and I was watching a halftime show, and they were talking about Vince Carter still being able to do some of the dunks he can do at 40. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure if it was Shaq. One of them were talking about Vince, and they said to Vince Carter, they said to Kenny Smith, "You know a lot about stealing names," because he was calling somebody else La Machine. I think he was trying to call somebody on the Spurs La Machine, but somebody else had that name. And Kenny Smith tried to steal it and give it to him, and somebody said, "Kenny Smith, you know about stealing names?" And he said, "I know. You should ask Halfman, Halfamazing."
That was the response from Kenny Smith?
That's what he said on national television when I was watching the NBA game earlier this season. And I just sat there and I was like, he just admitted on national TV after all this time that he stole my name, even though he's known for a long time. He's been avoiding me.
Right.
That's all right. Kenny Smith, I'll find you soon enough. Don't worry about it. We'll bump into each other and we'll have that conversation.
So I'm listening to what you described as what prevented you from excelling to the NBA, and you said that it was you.
Correct.
How would you, or what would you say to the young guys that's dribbling the basketball now that may want to make it to the NBA, but don't have that push or that compelling factor to push them towards the NBA because they may be afraid of the gym as you described?
What I would say to these guys is, in order to get to where you want to be, there are a few words I would use with that. Discipline, hard work, and sacrifice. Those are the three of the major things you have to do. Discipline, you have to be able to control your urges in terms of doing things that may get you taken out of the limelight or taken off your road to where you ever have to go. Hard work, you have to be able to be driven to get where you want to go, or else somebody else is going to get there before you. Okay? And last but not least, for me, you just have to want it. You have to want it. Nobody can give it to you.
How important is education
Education
over skills?
Education is supremely important. You know, I'm glad you delved into that, because I've also been an assistant school teacher for the New York City school system for about 13, 14 years. I was an assistant school teacher dealing with special needs children. So patience is another thing, because nothing's going to happen overnight. You have to be willing to wait for it to manifest. So, but education is very important. One thing I say to a lot of my kids that I train and a lot of my ex-students that wanted to be athletes or go on to play college sports, I tell them, if you don't stay in the books, you can't stay on the court. You can't have one without the other.
But I notice some of the coaches nowadays, especially high school coaches, they're really not concerned about the education of their athletes. They are more concerned about their playing abilities. Mm-hmm. So what do you say, or what would you suggest to those coaches who have that view?
What I would say to those coaches is, it's totally wrong. It's totally wrong. Because a lot of these coaches out here, they rely on these children to get them where they need to be in their coaching career.
Exactly.
And that's not right. That's too much responsibility to put on a child. What you're there to do is help develop a child, help a child figure out if he even likes the sport. Not love it, but if he even likes it. You know, you're there to steer them in the right direction, let them know about education, mm-hmm. let them know that there are other things besides basketball if you, for some reason, are not successful. There are other sports. There are other things you can do. Broaden your horizons. You're not just there to teach them about sports. You're there to teach them about life, how to be a man, how to be a woman, what have you.
I know that you're promoting your clinic. You have a basketball clinic now that you're promoting. What is some of the curriculum that you delve into in your...
Well, aside from training my kids about sports and the fundamentals of basketball, I'm also going to implement social etiquette aspect to my clinics and my camps, because a lot of these children out here in social settings, they're very awkward. They're either silent or they don't know how to have a normal conversation because they're too busy on their phones. You know, one of my sayings is, with a lot of my kids when I work them out, you know, the thing that's on shape on children the most are their thumbs, because this is all they do all day with their heads down. Mm-hmm. You know, you try to get them to go outside, they don't want to go outside. You try to get them to socialize, they socialize, but it's through the phone. You know, back in our day, what our parents do, go outside and play. Only time you came back in the house is when you were thirsty or you were hungry. That was it.
How would you describe give me one of your greatest highlights when it comes to basketball? And who was it against? Some of the names, some names that maybe we can recognize, and who may have been against?
I would have to say one of my greatest highlights was maybe, I'll go back to a Rucker game I had playing against Jason Richardson, former NBA player. He used to play for the Golden State Warriors. Mm-hmm. You know, slam dunk champion. He came up to Rucker to play one game, and the crowd was hyped. They were waiting to see all these great dunks he was going to do, and he did. You know, he had a couple of nice dunks, but I think he underestimated the talent that he was going to be playing against that day, and he thought maybe a few of us going to back down. And once again, going back to myself, you know, I'm slight of build. I'm 6'6", but I'm slim, and I've played out of position most of my career. I've always played power forward or center. Sometimes I play my known position, but up at Rucker, I was power forward or center, so I was kind of small. So I guess, you know, he looked at me. He's maybe an inch taller than me, but he's about 220. Right. I was only about 190, 185. So he figured he could push me around and just sun me, right, basically. But I got the best of him that day. I had a great game. I think I had maybe about 30 points, about 18 rebounds. You know, I shut him down. He didn't even, before, you know, he didn't know what was happening. By the time he did, the game was over. And, you know, it's one of my better games, I would just definitely have to say, against Mr. Jason Richardson. Gotcha.
Jason, but I remember him too. He was a good ball player during the NBA.
Yeah, good ball player, real good ball player.
Now, let me ask you a question, because I know sometimes, how does it make you feel to be noticed, you know, as a ball player, and especially AND1 when they had their notoriety? You go certain places and people scream your name, or people solicit autographs from you. How does that make you feel?
That's a good question, because when I used to see it, I would ask myself the same question. I wonder how they felt. And then when, you know, I was fortunate enough to be put in that position to go through it, it's kind of hard to put into words explaining other people screaming your name, showing you love worldwide, because it just wasn't a United States thing. And one was a worldwide phenomenon for a period of time. People screaming your name, you know, wanting a shirt off your back, a sock off your foot. You know, I had never experienced anything like that. I had people that admired how I played, but to see true fanatics, not fans, but fanatics that are paying money to see you, you know, I loved it. And even to this day, I appreciate it. You know, I appreciate it to this day. And it was just a great experience. And I enjoyed every minute of it, every minute of it. And I appreciated all the love and respect that the people showed me, all the fans for coming out. I always was thankful for that.
Is the feeling of imbalance now that, you know, because we have to age, so they are not screaming as they once did yesterday. So now, is it a feeling of imbalance now that you don't hear it as often as you once heard it?
Not at all. Not at all, because I enjoyed it while I had it. It would be one thing if I didn't take it for what it was at the time, but I enjoyed it while it was here. And I mean, people still come up to me and, you know, show me some love here and there every once in a while. So it's not completely gone. But no, there's no imbalance with me. You know, I love being with AND1. The period of time I was there was the period of time I was there. You know, we went our separate ways after, you know, a little bit of time, but I appreciate everything we did for me. You know, it's just, you know, my time was up, and that was the period of time it was.
Okay, I have to ask a question then. Whether you said that you guys separated, was it some type of rift there that caused a separation, or what caused the separation?
Yeah, there were some issues between players, management, the company, because throughout my tenure there at AND1, I believe we maybe went through 3 owners. So it went from guys running the company because they loved it, to somebody running it because they liked it, to somebody running it because they heard it was a good company. So the passion for it slowly dissipated with each owner. And I don't think that some of the management appreciated the fact that we had minds of our own. And if something was wrong or didn't look right, we voiced our opinion. Some of the management just wanted us to be jocks, and as one of the ladies in government said earlier this year, shut up and play ball. That's really what they wanted us to do. Because of the fact that we were street ball players, none of us had went to the NBA, even though some of us did play pro on some level. And they, for lack of a better word, just didn't think we were intelligent enough to voice our opinions. But when they found out that we did have the knowledge and intelligence, because what we were saying made sense, that's when a lot of the issues started coming about.
There's a high school kid right now, maybe at the age of 14 years old, looking at this show, and he's familiar with Halfman, Halfamazing. He's familiar with AND1 and all the accolades that you accomplished. He's looking at you, and he's going to give you a eulogy, and he's saying, Halfman, Halfamazing. What would be the words that you would want to leave behind?
Halfman, Halfamazing.
was or is, was what?
Was one of the hardest working guys I ever seen, and wherever he was, he left it on the floor. Anything I put my mind to, I try to be the best at it. If I wasn't the best at it, I tried to figure out or learn how to be the best at it, or at least good. But never back down from a challenge. Never back down from a challenge.
Whether it was on the court or off the court.
On or off the court. Never back down from a challenge.
So you would be an example on the court as a basketball player and off the court as a human being.
Indeed. Indeed. Because as you were talking about earlier, the fact that I didn't get to the NBA doesn't mean I wasn't successful in my basketball career, because I was able to travel other avenues and become successful at a certain level. And as a young black man, I was able to survive what people call the hood and become a contributing factor to the community. I became an assistant school teacher to work with the children. I'm putting together, well, I have my business now, the Real Halfman LLC, where I'm going to do my training with the kids, once again, back into the community and wherever people will have me. So I've always, whatever I've done, it's always revolved around children. It always seems to come around children, come back to children.
The hood is like a vacuum. You know, the hood, especially that you described, the hood. I'm from Brooklyn also, so the hood is like a vacuum. What prevented you, outside of basketball, from getting sucked into that vacuum?
Family. You know, my grandparents raised me, old school. You know, I used to go outside, they sitting on the steps. When it's time to go in, they call me down the block. The whole block raised the children back then. If you were acting up in the street and somebody else saw you acting up, you got popped on the butt and sent down the block to your parents or your grandparents, and they took care of the rest. So I would have to say it was the village that saved me.
Raised the child.
The village that saved the child. They raised me, you know, and I was fortunate enough to pay attention to my environment, to see what was going on around me, what this cat was doing if it was positive, what this cat was doing if it was negative. Do I want to go here? Do I want to go here? So I went here. And that's not to say I was perfect, but I went here more times than I went here. And that's how I was able to survive. The park saved me. That basketball saved me.
I wrote a Facebook quote today, and it says, just because someone is by your side doesn't mean that they're on your side. So have you ever experienced that, because this is dealing with jealousy and envy, have you ever experienced that growing up? Because I know you had some so-called friends that were around you, and it appears that they was clapping for you, but in essence, they was really clapping and hoping that you failed.
Mm-hmm. Yes, friends, family. You know, I've had situations like that, but I was fortunate enough that it didn't derail me, and some of the situations I saw ahead of time and dealt with it, and some of the situations I didn't and got hit straight in the face with it, but I was still able to get back up and move on with it. So, yeah, I definitely had to deal with some backstabbing from friends and family, some jealousy from friends and family, but I couldn't let it affect me. I had things I had to do.
I just want to, because I just want to say one thing pertaining to that, because me, I don't believe that you lose a friend only to death. I believe that these were some of the, you know, the sheep and wolves closing, because they are not actually your friend if they turn on you. They are actually not your family members if they turn on you, but they are your relatives. So I like to make that distinction, because oftentimes we call people our friends, which in essence they aren't our friends. They shouldn't even have that attribute.
Well, yeah, and you're absolutely right, because that's what you perceive them as at the time,
right,
as your friend. So it kind of, even when they do stab you in the back, you still kind of subconsciously call them your friend, because that's what you're used to saying.
Right.
But no, I can definitely agree with you there. Definitely. You know, if it happens from family, then they're just a relative. If it happens from somebody you consider a friend, then they were never truly a friend. They were just sitting there waiting to get you.
Could you please let the viewers know again about your clinic, about your basketball clinic?
Yes, the Real Halfman LLC. You can go to therealhalfman.com. I am also on OG Halfman10 on Twitter and OG Halfman_Halfamazing on Instagram. I do clinics, camps, private sessions. Like I said, I also implement a social etiquette aspect to my company to help with the children so they can better move around in this world and know how to communicate properly to get what they need to get. And that's about it. That's about it.
I definitely, you're doing a big thing, man, because is there anything that you would like to leave the viewers that you have fans still and you have people who wish to emulate you as an individual? Would you like to leave anything with them before you go?
Definitely. I'll leave you with this, and this is something that I learned a long time ago. You know, particularly started with myself when I first fell in love with basketball because of a guy named Magic Johnson, and then I watched old tapes of a guy named Oscar Robertson. When I went out to the court, I wanted to emulate these guys. I wanted to be like these guys. But as I got older, I figured out, why do I have to be like them? Why can't I just be me and take pieces of them? So this is what I want to leave children, adults, whoever. Don't try to be the next somebody else. Be the first you. And that's it.
That's beautiful. That's very profound. That's very profound. And it was definitely an honor, pleasure. It was an eye-opening also to have you on the show. And hopefully we could get some of the other AND1 guys on the show and maybe come back. Y'all could come back as a team and we can have a nice show with the rest of you guys.
Definitely. I also want to say hello to my lady Tiffany, also my partner in the Real Halfman LLC business. If it wasn't for her, you know, I wouldn't be sitting here right now talking about my business. So I just want to thank her. Give her a big shout out.
I thank you too, Tiffany. Shout out to Tiffany, no doubt about it. Coach Les Pilgrim.
Les Pilgrim, I love you.
Coach Keith Best.
Yes.
All you guys. And again, I definitely appreciate you, man, for being on the show.
Appreciate you having me, man.
I appreciate
Thanks
the viewers. Definitely support his clinic because he's an excellent teacher when it comes to basketball and social behavior. So please support him. He's coming to a neighborhood near you. Thank you for watching Just a Jewel with me, your host, Arthur Malik. And remember to always let your inner jewel shine. Peace.
Just a Jewel with our host, Arthur Malik.